What's going on YouTube? Masex back with another video, and today we're going to be looking at Pro Football Focus's top 32 prospects. So Pro Football Focus recently released their top 32 big board for the 2024 class. We're going to be taking a look into that, diving in. It's going to be a pretty long video. I'm not going to take too much longer with this intro. If you haven't already, go ahead and like and subscribe to this video. All football content. If you clicked on this video, that means you are most likely a football fan. So without further ado, let's get to it. All right, and to get things started, we're going to start at 32 and then work our way to the number one prospect. And at 32, we have Braylon Trice, edge rusher out of Washington, listed at 6'4", 256 pounds. Last year, a ton of pressures. He's more of a projection pick at this stage. We'll see once they get into conference competition, and we'll see. Like I said, this is more of a projection pick, but I can see why he's listed as a top 32 player. At number 31, we have Amarius Mims, offensive tackle out of Georgia, listed at a massive 6'7", 330 pounds. Mims was a former 5-star recruit according to 24/7 Sports. Last year as a sophomore, no sacks allowed, looks very comfortable in space. He also has a mean streak as a blocker, part of a very dominant team. He's young. Of course, scouts are going to flock towards a player like Amarius Mims. At number 30, we have Michael Penix Jr., quarterback from Washington, 6'3", listed at 214 pounds. One of the older guys, class of 2018. I know Michael Penix very well. He was an original IU student athlete from 2018 up until 2021. Unfortunately, all 4 years were ended due to injury. Transfers to Washington, and I mean, he's played like maybe a little over half the games at Washington and already has more passing touchdowns, passing yards. He's one of the best passers of the football in the nation right now. Probably a Heisman candidate. Like I said, he is older, but at the quarterback position, scouts are definitely willing to overlook that. All right, at number 29, we have Xavier Worthy, the speedy wide receiver out of Texas, listed at 6'1", 163 pounds. Big playability, rumored to have 4.2 speed. I don't see 4.2 speed, but I definitely see 4.3 speed. A lot of hype coming out of high school, being a former 4-star recruit. In my opinion, I'm still waiting on the production to match the hype. I honestly do not feel he's a top 32 player. We still have his junior year to watch. I do think that there's a little bit of projection here, assuming he even leaves his junior year. All right, at number 28, we have running back Blake Corum out of Michigan, listed at 5'8", 214 pounds. So a very stocky guy. He's listed at 5'8". I think he's closer to 5'7". Former 4-star recruit. As a junior, rushed for 1,461 yards on close to 6 yards a carry, 18 rushing touchdowns. He's one of my favorite running backs in this draft class. Quick feet, finds the hole. Once he sees that hole, he attacks. He's very strong for his size. Like I said, 214 pounds at 5'7", 5'8". For his size, I would like a little bit more of a second gear. He reminds me of Jacquizz Rodgers. Blake Corum is definitely one of my favorite running backs and one of my favorite players in the entire class. At number 27, we have Johnny Wilson, wide receiver out of Florida State, listed at 6'7", 235 pounds. He'll probably be closer to 240 by next year's combine. Hopefully they keep him at receiver. Former 4-star recruit. He's one of those vertical route type of guy. He's a really good blocker. His size alone, like I said, at the receiver position, is going to grab the attention of GMs. Originally an Arizona State student athlete, transferred to Florida State. Not sure if he's a top 30 player, but played really well in the season opener against LSU as well. At number 26, we have Adonai Mitchell, wide receiver out of Texas, listed at a lanky 6'4", 190 pounds. Originally went to Georgia, freshman and sophomore years. His junior year, he's transferred to Texas. He's going to play with Quinn Ewers. 29 catches last season as a sophomore. Definitely a projection player, but we'll see how he does his true junior year. At number 25, one of my favorite running backs, Trey Benson out of Florida State, 6'1", 215 pounds. Originally started his collegiate career at Oregon, transferred as a sophomore to Florida State. It did pay dividends last year, rushing for 969 yards on close to 7 yards a carry. Was one of the tops in nation at broken tackle rate, elusiveness rate. He's definitely somebody I feel a lot more people will know his name. He'll be more of a household name by October, November. At number 24, we have tackle J.C. Latham out of Alabama. Listed at 6'6", 325 pounds, former 4-star recruit. Last year as a sophomore, no sacks allowed. I have him as a top 3 tackle in this class. I think that he will probably be a top 10 pick. Next up at number 23, we have Bo Nix, quarterback out of Oregon, listed at 6'2", 213 pounds. Highly touted coming out of high school. 4-star recruit. Originally was with Auburn. Mediocre 3 years at Auburn. Didn't live up to the hype at all. Last year at Oregon, completely balled out, throwing for almost 3,400 yards, 27 passing touchdowns, also added 507 yards rushing on the ground. Bo Nix is somebody a year ago, I thought he was done with college football. He's a dual threat guy, he's a really good athlete. Definitely someone I think can earn an NFL roster spot. At number 22, we have edge rusher Dallas Turner out of Alabama. Listed at 6'4", 240 pounds. Last year, 4 sacks, 37 tackles. Turner's a good all-around athlete. He's quick, violent hands. I do see him being a top 20 pick next year. He does have that type of skill set and ceiling in his overall game. At 21, we have Josh Newton, cornerback out of TCU, listed at 6 foot, 195 pounds. Josh Newton is a pure example of somebody that started from the bottom and has worked his way up. He was only a 2-star recruit coming out of high school. He grinded his way. Originally started his collegiate career at Louisiana Monroe. Transferred as a senior last season. 3 interceptions, only a 50.1 QBR when targeted, but a pretty solid player from what I've been able to watch this moment. At number 20, we have defensive tackle Chris Jenkins out of Michigan, listed at 6'3", 285 pounds. This is another projection pick. He did flash a lot of upside last season, especially in the big games. That's when he showed his ass the most. He solidified the middle of a defense, of a very good Michigan defense, I'll add. Still one of those guys you want to see it this year, see if he can put it all together and dominate. The ceiling, the potential was clearly there in a lot of those flashes that he made last year. At number 19, we have wide receiver Keon Coleman out of Florida State, former 4-star recruit. Originally started his collegiate career at Michigan State. This year, he'll be starting at Florida State. And actually, at the time of this recording, he had a monster game in the LSU versus Florida State game. I believe he had 3 receiving touchdowns. This year, as a junior, he'll be projected to make that next step, make that next leap with Travis Benjamin and Johnny Wilson. That's a nice little trio they have going right there. I really expect Florida State to do some big things this year, but Keon Coleman definitely showed the type of talent that he has, and he's not afraid of the big stage. All right, at number 18, we have Graham Barton, offensive tackle out of Duke, listed at 6'5", 311 pounds. Really good player, a really solid player. He's a floor type of guy, in my opinion. He's listed as a tackle. From what I hear, he may be one of those guys that will be kicked in to guard, so he may be projected as a guard at the next level. Really solid, good pass blocker. I think he'll definitely be a late first-round pick next year. At number 17, we have Joe Alt, offensive tackle out of Notre Dame, listed at 6'7", 317 pounds. Football played, and to me, he's my favorite tackle in the class right now. I have him personally as my top tackle. All right, at number 16, we have Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver out of Ohio State, listed at 6'1", 205 pounds. I've said this a few times in previous videos. He's the best number 2 wide receiver in the nation. Last year, 74 catches, 10 touchdowns. He's an excellent run after the catch type of guy. He has good speed. He's one of those candidates where if he was on another offense, I think he probably would be more celebrated. Not to say that he's unknown now, but when you're playing with who we'll be talking about here in a little bit, it's understandable where he's going to have to give up some touches, give up some targets in that offense. But Emeka Egbuka is for sure a first-round pick next year, in my opinion. So I agree with this. All right, at number 15, Pro Football Focus elects Cameron Kitchens as the next best player for this class. Safety out of Miami, listed at 5'11", 202 pounds. I like safeties that make plays. Cameron Kitchens is a guy, 6 interceptions last year, sideline to sideline, really good ball skills, made some plays like he was a receiver. Cameron Kitchens is one of my favorite defenders in this year's class. All right, and at number 14, we have Malik Neighbors. Pro Football Focus is really high on Malik Neighbors, wide receiver out of LSU. 6 foot, 195 pounds, former 4-star recruit. Last year, broke out, 63 catches, 863 yards. Even as a freshman, contributed very well. True freshman, 29 catches, 4 touchdowns. This is definitely someone who's projected to break out with Jalen Daniels as the quarterback. He's someone that I'll keep my eye on. All right, we're moving along. Number 13, Pro Football Focus has Latu, defensive tackle out of UCLA, listed at 6'4", 265 pounds. Last season, pretty much you can call him Mr. Sack, 10.5 sacks. Originally started his collegiate athlete at Washington way back in 2019. I don't know what happened between the years 2020 and 2021, those 2 years. I didn't see any news or any statistics. Whatever happened, he rebounded, and now he's a top 15 prospect according to Pro Football Focus. At number 12, we have Leonard Taylor III, defensive tackle out of the projection pick. Like I've mentioned a few times, of course, there's going to be guys that they're going to project to break out. Leonard Taylor is one of them. He's a high ceiling player. I saw a few of his highlights. He's got burst. He's definitely got talent. He's one of those watch players that you just got to see. All right, and at number 11, we have Cooper DeJean, cornerback out of Iowa, listed at 6'1", 207 pounds. True junior this season coming up. He's a do-it-all type of player on defense for Iowa. I actually featured him as one of the 5 players that you need to watch for this upcoming season. I watched his film and definitely he's one of my favorite players. I love versatility. You can put him all over the field. He may even play some offensive snaps. He's a return specialist. He can do it all. But it's good to see Pro Football Focus high on him as well as a top 11 prospect for this upcoming class. At number 10, we have Jerzon Newton, defensive tackle out of Illinois, listed at 6'2", 295 pounds. The man stayed in the backfield last season, 14 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks. He's definitely one of those guys that I can see as a first-round pick. I love his tenacity. He just has that I love football attitude when you watch him play. At number 9, we have Chop Robinson. He's somebody, still for me, I need to watch a little bit more to honestly have an opinion about him being in the top 10. I think that he's more of a projection pick. He's definitely a really good edge rusher with a lot of potential. 6'4", 250 pounds. I'll just need to watch a little bit more of Chop Robinson, honestly, to have an opinion. Next up, we have Kalen King, one of my favorite corners, coming out of Penn State, listed at 5'11", 188 pounds. Good ball skills. He's a willing tackler. Ball tracking ability last season, 3 interceptions. I think that he'll probably be the number 1 corner. He's my top-rated corner coming out of this class. Kalen King, in my estimation, my projection, will be a top 10 pick in next April's draft. And sticking at corner, number 7 is Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback out of Alabama. I've mentioned before in previous videos that I've highlighted this individual. One of the coolest nicknames that you'll find in college football and in sports history, honestly. 6'1", 188 pounds. Last year, an interception, 35 tackles. So as you see, the stat line doesn't have a lot of interceptions, but he brings a lot to the game. So Kool-Aid's very instinctive. He's adept at reading route. He anticipates routes very well. He has a lot of value in the return game as well. He's going to be a marketing brand specialist for whatever team drafts him in the first round next year, which I do feel he'll be a first round pick next year. At number 6, we have Jared Verse, edge rusher out of Florida State, listed at 6'4", 248 pounds. He's probably the best edge rusher in this class. 9 sacks last season. His size-adjusted speed is going to be off the charts next year when he's at the combine and his pro day. Scouts are going to fall in love with that. Has the long arms to keep the blocks disengaged. I think that he'll be a top 10 pick next year. At number 5, we have quarterback Drake May out of North Carolina, listed at 6'4", 220 pounds. Last season, 38 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He's everything you look for in a pro-style QB. He's got the size, the measurables, the rocket arm. He's a dual threat type of guy. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. the game against South Carolina was a lot closer than it should have been. His stock, I do see, is starting to slip a little bit, but he's one of those guys to me. He reminds me of Justin Herbert, and I think that he should be a top 5 pick next year. Some people are trying to slip him behind a few other quarterbacks. Not me. To me, he's the real deal. All right, next up, we have an offensive tackle. A lot of people's number 1 tackle in this class, and that's Olu Fashanu, offensive tackle out of Penn State, 6'6", 321. For the most part, he's now becoming more of the consensus top tackle. To me, I still like Joe Alt, but Olu is definitely a beast. He's very powerful, effective in space. They're going to love his wingspan. He's got some really long arms. Plays with the nasty streak. He's going to make sure you fall on the ground if he's able to dominate you, and he has no problem pushing you to the sideline. Now, here's one for me that's a little bit more of a shocker. In number 3, we have Brock Bowers, tight end out of Georgia. So Pro Football Focus has Brock Bowers as a 3rd best prospect. Well, it's not really too much of a shocker, but he's definitely risen compared to other platforms that I've looked at as far as big boards and top prospects for the class of 24. He's the best tight end prospect since Kyle Pitts. Essentially, a really big wide receiver that they put in the slot. I've seen him outrun DBs on the sideline. They give him reverses and handoffs. He's a solid blocker, catches everything you throw, has that big radius at 6'3", 6'4", and one hell of a tight end prospect at number 3. And now we're on the top 2. At number 2 is Marvin Harrison, receiver out of Ohio State, 6'3", 210 as he's listed at. Last year, 77 catches, almost 1,300 yards, 14 receiving touchdowns. He's the best wide receiver prospect in many people's eyes since Calvin Johnson over 15 years ago. He has everything you want: size, speed, high points to ball, elite acrobatic catches. His catching reminds you of George Pickens, but he can do way more. He can run pretty much any route that you put on the tree, catches in traffic. Really, it's just about him staying healthy. He's gotten dinged up. He got dinged up a little bit against IU in the season opener, but I don't see anything stopping this guy from being the number 1 receiver and may well even be a top 3 pick, which you don't really see too often at the wide receiver position. And at number 1, we have Caleb Williams, quarterback out of USC, 6'1", 220 pounds. He's listed at 6'1", maybe a little bit shorter than that, and maybe a little bit bigger than 220. He's a pretty thick-built quarterback, 42 touchdowns, 5 interceptions last year. Put up video game numbers in the season opener. I don't even remember who they played. Undoubtedly the best player in the nation. 2022 Heisman Trophy winner. Can make every throw. He's fun to watch. He's box office. You have to watch this guy. He's in California. Dual threat, though he prefers to stay in the pocket and throw. Reminds me of Patrick Mahomes. That's his biggest comparison. Probably the best quarterback prospect to me since Andrew Luck, in my opinion. All right, well, there you have it. These are the top 32 prospects according to Pro Football Focus. If you made it this far, deeply appreciate it. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. More videos to come. I cover high school, college, and the NFL. With all that said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheat!